This, my friends, is a classic case of misdirection. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another video. Welcome to the channel. An outsider's perspective. You all know what the deal is. We talk a lot about politics and culture war. So let's get straight into this whole Lia Thomas saga and why I sincerely believe that this is a misdirection. So the story goes from New York Post. Sanity returns to transgender madness after Lia Thomas banned by FINA. Now, this is New York Post, a right-wing publication celebrating the fact that Lia Thomas is not going to be allowed to compete against women. Now, if you have been living under a rock for the past couple of months, Lia Thomas is someone who trans from a man who used to be known as Will Thomas and used to be a swimmer, swimming alongside men, but was performing really poorly, and then transed into a woman and became a superhero, superhuman being swimmer, or super female swimmer who was dusting everybody, breaking all sorts of records, winning all sorts of trophy from the NCAA competition in the US. Anyways, you guys, so this individual had plans of going to the Olympics, but it seems like that plan has now been trashed. It's not going to be coming to fruition, sadly for them. But anyways, a lot of people are celebrating this. For me, I think it's a win for women to a certain extent, but I don't think it's a win in terms of the war against trans people competing against women. But a lot of people might say, no, that's not the issue. We've won, and they're celebrating. But I want to show you guys quickly something really quick from this story to prove my point that this whole Lia Thomas thing is a case of misdirection. And the battle hasn't been won, or the war hasn't been won. Matter of fact, it has been lost, in my own personal opinion. And there's no cause for real celebration. So this is where I want to point you guys to. So this is a story right here that says, Swimming World Governing Body FINA announced a ban Sunday on biological men competing in women's event unless they had transitioned before the age of 12. Now, conjunctions like unless, if my English is correct, unless or buts, when they say those sort of things, it means it's like a fine print that every single thing I just said, I'm about to contradict it. So they're saying that trans women have been banned from competing against women unless if they had trans before 12 years of age. Now, they go on to say that, oh, we are not encouraging young people to transition. This is not an encouragement for them to transition. And not so many countries in the world are actually allowing for this. It's illegal in many countries in the world. But those countries that it is legal, you are definitely encouraging them, because once they read this, every other thing they are going to hear is pa 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 pa. And if you look at the agenda that is going on, it is being supported by both the left and the right. After all, you saw Fox News actually showed or did an op-ed on a trans 5-year-old. They were talking about Born This Way, that, you know, they're even conservatives. They believe in God and this, that, and the other and whatnot. But anyways, this is what's going on. And you can see that slowly there is a shift in the political spectrum to make things that were unthinkable to be accepted. So what's really going on is known as the Overton window. Now, if you have been in political cycles for a while, you probably might have heard about it. But if you haven't heard about it, let me show you what I mean by the Overton window. So guys, before you right now is a diagram of what I call the Overton window. This is a diagram depicting how policies are actually made. So basically, politicians would look at this scenario and they would look at what is popular in terms of policies that they want to pass, and whatever is popular at that point in time is the policies that they are going to pass. Now, if they want to make a different policy that suits them, what they would do is they would spark a conversation and they would let people shift the conversation from where it was before, from policies or popular policies to sensible, to acceptable, to radical, and to the unthinkable. Take, for instance, a couple of years back, maybe decades back, in countries like US, Australia, even Australia a couple of years back, gay marriage was unthinkable. Gay marriage was unthinkable in Australia until a couple of years back when a referendum was carried out and people voted for gay marriage But how did they get there in the first instance? So this is how it is effected. First of all, spark a conversation and say, hey, we need to start accepting gay marriage. Now, a whole lot of people are going to kick against it and say, no, it is impossible. Marriage is something sacred. Marriage is religious and is sacred between a man and a woman, a heterosexual man and a heterosexual woman. This is what is expected from the left and from the right. So this is my graph. Let's assume that going upwards is the opinion of the left and going downwards is the opinion of the right. So when it comes to heterosexual marriage, all the rights accept it. They don't have an extreme opinion about it, but the left have extreme opinions about it, saying that marriage shouldn't be only between men and women, it should be between men and women and women. This was unacceptable by the general public. But after a while, sparking this conversation, then they'll bring up ideas like, hey, how about domestic partnership? And then people would say, well, that's fine, that's not marriage, it's acceptable. And then they would try to shift the conversation to a different conversation and say, how about civil union? Let's make it legal. And people would say, that's a radical idea, or it's ridiculous idea. We're not going to accept that at all. So little by little, as time goes on, the acceptable becomes expected. So domestic partnership becomes expected. So when domestic partnership becomes accepted, what do you think becomes acceptable? Well, civil union becomes acceptable, as well as heterosexual marriage becomes acceptable. And then as time goes on, there would be a shift in the Overton window again, and policies will be passed to make sure that this domestic partnership becomes, they have the same advantages as somebody who's married. So then you get civil union now jumps into the Overton window. And then slowly but surely, you will get gay marriage becomes the expected. And as we are starting to move forward, it becomes a shift in the spectrum. What do you get? Heterosexual marriage becomes the what? Extreme from the right. It becomes the extreme. That's where we are headed to. The same thing goes with the whole transgender argument. In the beginning, they said everybody agreed. It was expected that we had only two genders. We had men and women. And then the conversation was sparked that no, we live in a gender spectrum where there could be trans men and trans women, and people can just change and interchange or identify as nothing. And people saw that as extreme. It's crazy. We cannot accept that. So what did they do? They moved the conversation. They sparked the conversation, and many academicians started saying, well, there are some people that experience gender dysphoria, which happens to be a sort of like mental illness or something, right? And that became acceptable. So they said, well, we should treat them this way because, look, gender dysphoria is not something bad. It's not something that harms anybody else. So let's accept it. So gender dysphoria became acceptable. After a while, the acceptable became expected, and then the expected became acceptable. Then it just became acceptable to say there are two genders, but then gender dysphoria became the Overton window, became the expected. Then little by little, they kept on pushing and pushing and pushing, and then they turned gender into a social construct. And so the argument was lost. And then the radical idea of gender being a social construct became acceptable. And then when it became acceptable, gender dysphoria became the norm, the expected. And then slowly but surely, the unthinkable, the gender spectrum we are in now, where they're arguing that it's a genderless society that we're living in, is now the Overton window is now in the Overton window where this gender spectrum is now expected, and whoever says a man is a man and a woman is a woman is an extremist. And this is unthinkable in today's political spectrum, which is where we are. Now, I know many of you might say this doesn't make any sense or whatnot, but just listen to this argument between this academician or a doctor or whatever she is and Matt Walsh.
There's the extreme approach that you are admittedly taking. And then there's also just ordinary people that might not be comfortable with the language change.
She began by saying that my view is extreme. Okay, so the view that every single person on Earth has held up until 15 seconds ago is extreme. And the view that almost everyone does right now still hold is extreme, apparently, according to her. But there is this they are conflating gender and sex, because on one hand they say, well, you got your biological sex, but then your gender is whatever social construct. But then they turn around and say that trans women are women. So a man who identifies with the gender, the social construct of womanhood, actually is a woman.
All right, so you guys, you get the idea right there. What I was saying, the exact thing I was saying, that look, now what's supposed to be norm, what was expected a couple of years back, is now the extreme today. It's now being seen as the extreme today. It's the exact same tactics that FINA has adopted. So FINA has given you everything that you want. They said they would even create a category, an open category for these people to compete. However, they've left that little thing there that is going to shift the conversation in a couple of years, that people like Lia Thomas. So Lia Thomas will be the sacrifice right now, but people like Lia Thomas in a couple of years will be competing against biological women. We'll be competing against biological women. And so this is the misdirection that they've given you. They've made you all focus on Lia Thomas, that Lia Thomas is not going to be going to the Olympics. And a whole lot of people will be celebrating this. I'm not celebrating this because I have nothing against Lia Thomas. But at the same time, I sincerely believe that, yes, this is only a battle that has been won for a short time. And the Overton window is going to shift in the next couple of years by reason of this little clause that they put there. And we are going to be back to this conversation again, but by then it will be too late. Anyways, you guys, let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did learn something, maybe you have questions about Overton window, or you disagree with me, let me know in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, ding that bell for notification, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care, peace, and Saya's out of here. Bye-bye now.